name is Zuli Helen Adekemi, the convener of Marriage on the Road and Singles with Purpose. We've been considering subtle forms of abuse in marriage, and then we'll continue today by considering two major other sorts of subtle forms of abuse in marriage. We will be considering cultural abuse, and then at the same time, we will be considering digital abuse in marriage. So the first one is cultural abuse. What do we mean by cultural abuse? This is the use of cultural practices or traditions to abuse a significant other in marriage, to control or to manipulate or exploit one's spouse. This can occur in any cultural context and can be perpetrated by individuals from any cultural background. So quickly, I want to remind us that across the world, the global world, we have so many cultures that are rich in their own content. But when you choose to abuse your spouse through culture, it is an abuse. I would explain further. It comes when you force cultural conformity, when you cultural shaming, when you begin to disgrace the culture of your spouse because you did not come from the same cultural background, when you begin to manipulate culturally, and then when you begin to exploit your significant other culturally, because probably you try to isolate your spouse because of the differences in culture, it is an abuse. There are some culture that does not believe in women with careers. There are some other cultures that does not believe in women being well educated. So by the time you got married, and then the career or the position or probably the achievement of your wife begin to threaten you, and then you bring culture into it to demoralize or to demote your spouse, it is a cultural abuse in marriage. It could be cultural restrictions on social interactions. Said, okay, my culture didn't allow it, but your spouse's culture did allow that. Because you cut across culture, there should be a balance between the two of you in marriage, of course, so that it would not result into abuse. Let me bring you an interesting statistics on culture from around the world. Statistics shows that we have over 7,139 languages approximately worldwide. And then cultural diversity, we have about 196 countries. And then we have about 430 ethnic groups. And then Africa alone has over 430 ethnic groups, So if you cross this continent or you cross this culture, you should be able to know that you should find like a standing ground, a balance in the cultures, your culture and the culture of your spouse. Of the cultures to disappear because of marriage, it becomes an abuse when you begin to manipulate using the cultural differences in the marriage. Then let me quickly bring to us some signs of cultural abuse in marriage. When your significant other, when your spouse begins to feel trapped or controlled, when she or he begins to feel trapped and then forcefully, like maybe forced into conforming into some specific cultural practices or traditions. I think I've heard of a particular culture before that when the wife gives birth to the newborn, they cook lizard for them. That is what they believe. That is the culture. And then when you marry across the culture of somebody who does not believe in that culture of eating a boiled lizard after like a delivery, and then you now begin to force your wife to eat the lizard, I think that is a cultural abuse. We should be mindful. The other one is insisting on traditional clothing. Probably I did not appreciate the kind of dressing of my own spouses, but my spouses insisted I must dress according to his own culture forcefully. It is an abuse. It could be like demanding adherence to cultural traditions. Like in my own culture, so people will say, in the culture of where I come from, our women don't speak, they don't talk, they only listen, they only take instructions, and they don't complain. Like there are some traditions that will tell you that their women don't work. There are other traditions that will say, okay, our women are the one that works, our men are going to be lazy about. All these cultures, when it becomes forcefully imposed on your significant other, then believe you me, it is an abuse on its own. It could be that using cultural expectations to control, it is an abuse in marriage. When you are making cultural comparison, and then you are now saying that your spouse neglecting the background of that person's culture, then you tend to now bring your own culture to supersede, and then you make it forceful. So far your significant other it didn't go well with your significant other. If you now forcefully enforce it on her or him, it is an abuse. Forcing assimilation, like forcing your spouse to assimilate into your cultural background, suppressing their own cultural identity or practices, that is an abuse. Like, this is going to be my advice to couples who cross-cultured in marriage, that no matter the background and then the tradition of where you come from, I would love to recommend to you the culture that should supersede in your marriage. It should be the culture of the Bible, which is the correct manual for every relationship, for every marriage to thrive. So please do not allow culture to make you become a bully, to make you become an abuser in your marriage. The second kind of abuse I want us to consider today is digital abuse. Digital abuse in marriage is also known as online or cyber abuse. They refers to the use of technology to control, manipulate, or arouse one's spouse. Let me give us some examples, some forms of it. This is the monitoring and surveillance. When you begin to track your wife or your husband's online activities without the person's consent, it is an abuse. Online harassment, sending threatening, intimidating, or humiliating messages or email on social media, it is an abuse. When you begin to cyber stalk, using technology to monitor and track your spouse's online activities, often with the intention of controlling or intimidating them. I think I have heard of spouses, I have heard of a kind of marriage where the husband actually bought the number, the phone, all the online, everything that happens in the wife's phone. The husband got it blocked without the wife knowing. That is an abuse because she was not carried along. She was not aware. That is cyber stalking. Like accessing the accounts of your spouses without them knowing. You logged in on your own phone and you begin to monitor all. You read all the messages. You send some messages on his or on her behalf. I think I have heard of instances where women, where wives send information using the husband's account. All those ones are abuse. Online gaslighting, or probably you're using technology to manipulate your spouse's perceptions to reality. You might actually have like a revenge porn. There are some people, because you are in this call with your spouse, and then the next thing you do is to post the nude or probably some ugly and odd that's supposed to be secret videos of your spouse. Push them online. That is an abuse. Many people have committed suicide because of the shame, because of the depression that comes after such an act. It is an abuse. Please stop now before it is too late. Online harassment, such as sending threatening or intimidating messages to your spouse, it is an abuse. When you send humiliating posts, posting humiliating or degrading comments about your spouse on social media, that is an abuse. It's including the social media profile. That is an abuse. At least you should allow your spouse to breathe. Let them breathe. Like, marriage is not actually a body. It shouldn't be like a prison yard. There should be some level of freedom. There should be a level of like self-esteem, like you are existing on your own individual level. It doesn't have to be like you are put in a cage. No, you can't do all of that. It is an abuse, of course. All of these are the subtle forms of abuse in marriage, and I encourage you today that for the well-being of your marriage, please stop abuse, stop cyber abuse, stop cultural abuse, and every other forms of emotional abuse. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Once again, probably, if you need to contact me for any reason whatsoever, please dial this number 07037150154. And if you really need to find out more about me, please check online, check Tony Helen Adikemi, and check Marriage on the Road, and then check on Singles with Purpose. Thank you. The next episode of this will be coming on Wednesday. Stay tuned. God bless you. Your home is blessed. I leave you in the hands of Allah.